U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose a 30% tariff on goods from the EU and Mexico starting August 1st, triggering a wave of fierce opposition. The EU warned of retaliation. Mexico affirmed it would not compromise on sovereignty. Tensions escalated as the U.S. expanded tariffs with many global partners.
The European Union, EU, along with Mexico, expressed discontent at the announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding the possible imposition of a 30% import tariff on their goods, effective from August 1st. Mexico condemned this as an unfair agreement by Trump, emphasizing that national sovereignty is not something to be negotiated. Meanwhile, EU President Ursula von der Leyen declared that proportional countermeasures would be taken if necessary. Nevertheless, both trade partners affirmed their desire to maintain negotiations with the United States. President Trump also did not hesitate to warn that if any country trading with the EU retaliates, he would impose even higher import tariffs. This week, the Trump administration also announced a series of new tariffs on imports from Japan, South Korea, Canada, and Brazil, set to take effect starting next month. On Friday, in a letter sent to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Trump wrote, "We have had years to discuss the trade relationship with the European Union and have concluded that we must put an end to this large and persistent trade deficit caused by your tariff policies, non-tariff barriers, and trade restrictions." The letter added, "Unfortunately, our relationship is not reciprocal." In letters sent to the EU and Mexico, Trump emphasized that if any trade partner retaliates by imposing import tariffs on U.S. goods, he would immediately raise tariffs beyond the 30% level in a symmetrical manner. In a pre-recorded interview broadcast on Saturday night on Fox News, President Trump said that some countries are extremely angry. However, he maintained his stance that his tariff policies are bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars for the United States. The EU has in the past been a frequent target of Trump's criticism. On April 2nd, he once proposed a 20% tariff on goods imported from the EU and many other trade partners. When trade negotiations were delayed, he even threatened to raise the tariff to 50%. Washington and Brussels had hoped to reach an agreement before the July 9th deadline, but so far, there has been no official announcement of progress. The Office of the United States Trade Representative stated that in 2024, the U.S. trade deficit with the EU reached $235.6 billion, equivalent to 202 billion euros, 174 billion pounds. Ursula von der Leyen stated that the EU remains ready to work toward an agreement by August 1st. "We will take all necessary steps to protect the EU's interests, including implementing proportional countermeasures if needed," she added. "Few economies in the world can match the European Union in terms of openness and adherence to fair trade practices." French President Emmanuel Macron strongly opposed Trump's statement. If negotiations do not yield results, the French leader proposed that the EU should accelerate preparations for credible countermeasures. Bernd Lange, chairman of the European Parliament's Trade Committee, stated that President Trump's move is a slap in the face to the negotiation process. He emphasized there is no way to deal with an important trade partner, and suggested that Brussels should implement retaliatory measures as early as Monday. Other EU leaders also called for continuing negotiations with Trump. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni stated that she believed both sides could reach a fair agreement, adding, "There is no sense in starting a trade war across the Atlantic." Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof shared on social media that the EU must remain united and firm in order to reach a mutually beneficial agreement with the United States. From the industrial sector, the German Automobile Industry Association warned that costs for German car manufacturers and suppliers could rise significantly, and said the risk of escalating trade conflict is regrettable. In a letter to the Mexican leader, President Trump criticized that the country had not done enough to prevent North America from becoming a playground for drug trafficking. "Mexico has helped me protect the border, but what Mexico has done is still not enough." Trump added, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum told the press She believed the two sides would reach an agreement. She stated on Saturday, "We believe that, based on what our colleagues discussed yesterday, we will reach an agreement with the United States and, of course, we will achieve better conditions. We are clear about what we can work on with the United States and what we cannot work on with the United States," she added. "And there is one thing that must never be negotiated. Never. That is the sovereignty of our country." In the letter to Mexico, President Trump did not specify whether goods traded under the 2020 United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, would be exempt from the upcoming tariff hike scheduled for August 1st, as the White House said would apply to Canada. Earlier this week, the Trump administration also sent a letter to Canada threatening to impose tariffs of up to 35%. As of the end of Saturday, the tariff conditions proposed by the U.S. administration plan to apply tariffs on 24 countries, along with the entire EU bloc, totaling 27 member states. On April 12th, White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro set the goal of achieving 90 agreements in 90 days. To date, President Trump has announced outlines of 2 such agreements with the United Kingdom and Vietnam. Negotiations with the remaining countries are still ongoing.